All right, so the book is one thing and then the game's the other. I think your point was maybe the smartest and most important, which is whenever there is a tell-all written, and Seth Wickersham is a fantastic journalist, so this isn't a shot at him. But if one guy, and I obviously haven't read the book, I've just read the excerpts because the book hadn't come out. If one guy is consistently getting hammered, then you know that guy did not participate, help at all. None of his people did. And Belichick, to his credit, I think he has kept that MO his whole career, and knowing it hasn't always made him, gotten him the greatest media profiles. There is no argument against the success Bill Belichick has had. But when it comes to Sunday night's game, Kevin Wildes, who's a big Patriots fan who hosts the show with me, has brought up that he thinks Brady is going to be so overcome with emotion. It's going to be a setting he's never been in like that, and that he's not going to play well. And I think he might be right. But I don't think it matters if Brady plays well. I think the Bucs could start Kyle Trask and walk all over the Patriots because the Patriots roster stinks. And that is an indictment on Belichick. I don't really care that he didn't go to Tom Brady's birthday parties. I care more that he hasn't absolutely nailed a draft pick since Joe Thuney in 2016. That if you look at the Patriots roster right now, it's on the offensive side of the ball, it's like a house with a great foundation, but the house is sticks and straw. We've got this great offensive line. Yeah, but they're protecting a running back core that's no good, a group of wide receivers that's Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar, and the problem with that is they're Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar, two overpaid tight ends who haven't produced, and Mac Jones out there, he has all the time in the world to throw 3-yard checkdowns. So I think the Patriots are so overmatched this weekend that even if Tom Brady doesn't play well, the Bucs should trounce them. And I do believe, I'm not sure, I think Colin Cowherd had the Patriots going to the playoffs in his preseason stuff. Maybe that was an amendment. I'm not sure about that. But to me, they don't look like a playoff team. But
all right,
it's only been 3 weeks.
Yeah, now let's go to Nick's tears. So you do this. Your tears were actually physical last week as you were crying about Kansas City losing. But let's go to the tears with Nick. Now, a lot of what you and I see is the same. You have as co-favorite. I'm going to let you explain it, and then I'll have a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, you don't have to, what did LeVar Burton you say on Reading Rainbow? You don't have to take my word for it. Oh, my God, Nick, you're such a homer. You have the Chiefs as co-favorites. Oh, is literally every sports book in Vegas, including Fox Bet, homers? Because they don't have the Chiefs as co-favorites. They have the Chiefs as the favorites. The fact that they have had 2 fourth-down conversions go against them, so they've lost 2 games in the final moments after being lousy with turnovers, does not change the fact that you and I both know, Colin Cowherd, that if you had a draft of possible opponents to play, every team in the league, their last draft pick would be to play the Chiefs. I need to see more than 2 fluky losses to change that. But if we could show my tears as a whole, just for a moment, because my big issue with your tears was you're being bullied by the standings. So if you see there in the middle, I have the Raiders and the Broncos, right where they should be. Yeah. The Raiders are 3-0, 2 of those wins in overtime. The Broncos are 3-0 with wins over the Jets, the Giants, and the Jags. You have the Raiders right behind the Chiefs and the Broncos ahead of them. Colin Cowherd, it's just you and me talking, and Joy, of course, as well. You don't actually think the Broncos are better than the Chiefs. You don't actually think the Broncos are one of the 5 best teams in football. I know you don't.
Well, today, I believe today, September, if you had to go to Mile High as the Chiefs, I would take Denver. Today, the way it's working, Denver would beat Kansas City in Denver if they played Sunday. Doesn't mean I think the season will end a certain way. By the way, you can be in a loving marriage and have a bad weekend. I don't think Kansas City is right now. I'm not crossing them out of the playoffs.
Okay.
I don't think they're right now. I think Denver is playing better than they are. Kansas City playing much worse defensively than they are. So this morning, I think Denver beats Kansas City in Mile High. Is that nutty? Is that
okay? No, it is nutty. It is crazy. You are now saying I'll take Teddy Bridgewater and company over Patrick Mahomes because they beat the Jets, Giants, and Jags. Again, right. Jets, Giants, Jags. To torture your analogy a little further, though, you can be in a loving marriage and have a fight, but that doesn't mean if the next day you're like, hey, all time rank your partners that you have your ex ahead of your spouse. Like, no. And the other thing in the herd hierarchy, and I'm worried about you, Colin, you're drinking that Bills Kool-Aid again.
Oh, love them.
Now, I understand they had back-to-back dominant wins over not the actual Titans from Tennessee, but the Titans of the Miami Dolphins and the Washington football team. But the Bills, we can't just act like week 1 didn't happen. And Josh Allen was excellent, outstanding in week 3, which is good because it was his first truly great game of 2021. Not this season, this year, dating back to the playoffs last year. So let's just pump the brakes on the Bills a bit, just a bit, because they do play the Chiefs in 2 weeks, and so we'll get to see that matchup.
Can't wait. By the way, Richard Sherman back in the league with Tampa. What do you make of it?
All right, so off the field, I make of it this. No one should be defined by their worst moment ever. And I think Richard has done enough in his career where he shouldn't be defined by that worst moment. With that said, when that worst moment is on camera and very recent, and I think frightening for all involved, we can't act like it didn't happen. He deserves his day in court, but we've seen the video of what it was, and it was pretty scary. So I think that has to be included in the calculus on this. And because it's included in the calculus, Colin, let me ask you, to me this shows, and I think they're right, but a little bit of desperation from Tampa in this regard. Going into the year, I would have argued their biggest weakness was their secondary.
Right.
Well, that's also the area they've had the most injuries, and that's the area through 3 weeks Dak Prescott lit them up, Matt Ryan temporarily lit them up, and Matt Stafford lit them up. And so I think if you are, the whole league could have had Richard Sherman. He was out, you know what I mean? He was street free agent up until today. I do think it shows a little kink in the Tampa armor that they are maybe a little more concerned than others are about their secondary and about their defense as a whole.
Yeah. All right, that was pretty good. You know, we disagree on stuff. I do think Denver, I really do think there's a team every year in the NFL, every year, that shocks us. We're like, and I do think if Denver beats Baltimore this weekend, and it's basically a pick-em, that we're going to have to acknowledge Denver's that team. And we're like, okay, they're just better. You know, we could argue it's the Raiders, and maybe it's the Raiders.
I figured you were going to make that team. I would have figured you'd make that team your beloved Sam Darnold Carolina Panthers. They're also 3-0. Also, one last point. Oh, before I go, sorry, but Joy, don't ever rob a bank with Colin Cowherd, by the way, because he's like, oh, I was texting with someone this weekend. Then he's like, it was a GM. His team won. They were on the road. Well, now we're down to 7 people, Colin. So, like, your sources are quickly being outed by you as you discuss it. Only 7 teams won on the road this week. You got to be a little tighter to the vest, my friend.
All right. Good seeing you, buddy. Nick Wright, First Things First.
See ya. Bye.
All right. All sorts of stuff in this Brady book. Well, by the way, there really are. I could do 3 hours on it. I don't want to, bore y'all, but there are really